Neighbor cut down 50 trees on my parents' property in the middle of the night, Colorado. My parents woke up this morning and discovered that approximately 50 trees on their property had been cut down. Some of the smaller trees, 6 to 8 feet tall, had only the top half cut off, but the larger trees, 60-plus years old, had been completely cut down. The person who cut them down did their best to hide the damage by placing branches and rocks over the stumps and leaned some of the chopped-down trees against other trees so it looked like they were still standing. It's quite obvious which neighbor had done it because the only trees cut down form an alley directly in front of one specific neighbor's home, in which they now have a very clear view of the mountains and lake. Their only view from their house previously was of the trees. The trees that were cut down block a semi-major road and bike path. The trees were a large noise and privacy barrier to both neighbors and road traffic. My parents had no idea what to do when they saw the trees, so I advised them to take photos to document, call the sheriff to report the damage, and contact an arborist to get a price in replacing the trees. Though it seems obvious, we have no proof of who did the damage. The neighbors who we believe did it live in a shared outdoor space maintained by the WA, if that makes any difference. The sheriff told my parents there wasn't anything that he could do and it was only a misdemeanor property crime. They've also made an appointment with an arborist later this week. I'm wondering what the next step would be for them, if any, in order to recoup their losses of the damage done. Misdemeanor. It's property damage that's likely to be in the tens of thousands of dollars. Escalate with the cops. Also, contact homeowners insurance. And as someone else suggested, contact local companies that may have done the work. This probably was done by professionals if we're talking about large trees or topping tall trees. Though it seems obvious, we have no proof of who did the damage. I'd wager one doesn't take down 50 trees overnight by their lonesome. So your folks might try contacting local tree cutters in the hopes of determining who did the work, and from there, who hired them. The damages would be tens of thousands. This is likely felony territory. Call the police and get a lawyer. Any other close neighbors that might have a Ring camera similar that could have caught which company's trucks went by? Start finding every photo that includes the vandalized trees, no matter how blurry or far away. Your parents need to treat this like someone set part of their house on fire when they aren't home. That's an insane amount of damage. If there are enough trees cut down, you may be able to use Google Earth maps to show how the trees were in place before the tree cutting began. Cutting down that many trees is going to show up on satellite photography. Colorado is a one-party consent state. Record any conversations with your neighbors in case they make any admissions. You should report this to the Forestry Division. Then you will probably get an investigation, criminal charges. Also get a survey done. If any of those trees were in the public right-of-way, they're even more screwed. Even less desirable trees are worth $3 to $5K here. Get a lawyer and you'll probably end up owning that beautiful view yourself. The officer either lied to you about it being a misdemeanor, or he doesn't know what he's talking about. Contact the next level of authority above them. Even if you didn't see yourself, ask your neighbors if they saw any tree company in the area. If you call local tree companies to find out who it was, be non-confrontational with the companies. If you threaten them and give the impression you have no proof, they will shut up and you will have no chance of them giving you any info. A survey would be a good next step to definitively show the trees and stumps are on your parents' land. Then an attorney knowledgeable in your state's timber trespass laws I'm in WA, but I believe they are similar. Here at least there is a multiplier on damages if the act was willful. The cutters knew they weren't supposed to. Filing a claim with homeowners insurance may be called for, but it warrants careful consideration if it's worth making a claim or not. My policy expressly covered trees and shrubs, but only at $500 per plant. So the 860 feet tall firs that were removed I only got $4,000 for. They should check their policy before contacting insurance just so they know going in. Adjusters will straight up lie to you about what isn't covered. An attorney will know for sure, but you don't need to wait for the neighbors to admit to cutting down the trees to sue them for it. It is unlikely to be a misdemeanor, since the replacement cost of the trees will almost certainly be very high. The sheriff probably doesn't understand how valuable trees actually are. See if you can escalate with local authorities and make it clear to them that this is not a small potatoes matter. You can sue whoever did it, but you'll first need to know the value to sue for. The arborist can tell you this, and who to sue. If you cannot put together any non-circumstantial evidence that the neighbors did it, you are out of luck. So start seeing what you can do to get evidence. A private investigator may be able to help if the police can or won't. You want to find a lawyer specializing in tree law. Your state bar association can help with referral. Tree damage gets expensive very fast. There may be laws specific to your city or county about cutting down trees without permission. Good idea to check. Also, were any of the trees on a slope? Cutting this many trees on a slope might have serious erosion or water absorption consequences that might have to be remedied, which would mean extra damages, or environmental consequences if you live in an area that houses any protected species. Edit. Autocorrect issues. I'm a pretty well-informed detective, but I don't know jack about trees, and neither does that deputy. Property damage value will determine the offense class, and from the little bit I've read in the comments, this will likely add up to a felony amount. I'm confused. The WA maintained space. Was this on WA-controlled land or theirs? I don't necessarily agree that it had to be more than one person. A skilled tree feller can fell a good-sized tree in 5 minutes. The 8-footers could top in maybe 30 seconds. The only logging at night is done by thieves. I imagine it was fast and noisy, or a bit slower and quieter. You'd be impressed on how fast 1 or 2-man handsaws can be. The cut on the stumps and the sawdust will give you some clues. P.S. I haven't seen anyone mention hiring an arborist for an estimate of damages. Don't forget those top trees are goners. Those cut trees are a fire hazard you'll want to remove, partly for legal liability. The bigger trees might have timber or firewood value that could offset costs. Arborist can help with values, costs, tell you how they were cut, how to clean it up, how to restore, give referrals to reputable logging companies to do the work, etc. WA angle is interesting. See you in Best of Legal Advice. NAL. Paralegal. Many places have extra damages when trees involved. Consult a lawyer. Where I've practiced, when it's damage to trees, it's treble damages. To oversimplify, it's basically triple the actual replacement cost. Not sure if that applies in your part of Colorado. From Wikipedia. In United States law, treble damages is a term that indicates that a statute permits a court to triple the amount of the actual compensatory damages to be awarded to a prevailing plaintiff. Treble damages are a multiple of, and not an addition to, actual damages in some instances. Quote, document every tree for the eventual court case and for insurance purposes. Find photos of before the trees were cut down if possible. This would be totally appropriate to take to a civil lawsuit, though they'll have to do some investigation to determine who to sue. They'll probably want to find an attorney willing to take it on, and/or private investigator who can figure out who performed the work. Whoever did the work will be the ones on the hook primarily. But it's clearly a trespass with damage to the property, and 50 trees are going to be worth a lot.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.